Good afternoon. This is CapCAN Knows, the official podcast of the Capital Area College Access Network. You may be familiar with our newsletter articles of the same name. We are excited to engage the community in conversations about college access. I am your host, Jacob Tkachik, an AmeriCorps Vista serving with the Capital Area College Access Network. Joining me today is Arnold Weinfeld, the Director of Urban Policy Initiatives, Associate Director for the Institute of Public Policy and Social Research at Michigan State University. Mr. Weinfeld has also been the chair of CapCAN's Executive Leadership Board for the past 2 years. So, Mr. Weinfeld, let's get started. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Pleasure to be here with you too, Jacob.
All right, so let's start you off with a quick and easy one. Who encouraged you to go to college, and why was it important to you to continue your education post-high school?
Well, mostly my parents, I'd say, encouraged me to go to college. My brother and I, as a matter of fact. And funny story, I think it was important for me to continue my education after high school and go to college, as I worked in landscape, doing physical labor essentially when I was in high school. So I decided pretty quickly that was not a career that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Great work, when you're a high school kid, you're outside in the summertime, cutting grass and doing all that kind of stuff. But certainly decided that wasn't something I wanted to do full time moving forward. And I went to a high school that encouraged its students to go to college. I think nearly everyone in my high school class went on to college as well.
All right, awesome. A couple similarities there between myself and you right there. I also did a little bit of landscape as I was finishing up college. Figured it wasn't the right field for me, so wanted to keep moving forward. And I also went to a high school that promoted that college access there. Are you a first generation college student, or did your parents go before you?
My dad did, but he didn't finish up till he was an adult. So it wasn't like he used the typical 4-year path, after high school and stuff like that. He was in the military for a while, and then eventually finished up his college education. My mom was not a college graduate.
Okay, awesome. I'm a first gen myself. And,
wow, great.
Yeah, but no, that's awesome that your parents pushed you for that. My parents also supported me quite a bit. So, as I said in our little introduction, you are the director of the Urban Policy Initiatives Board there. And so what sparked your interest in urban public policy?
Well, yeah, I do urban policy initiatives for Michigan State University Outreach and Engagement. I've been in public policy throughout my entire career path, no matter where I've been. And at one point, mid-career, I started working for an organization called the Michigan Municipal League, which represents cities and villages across the state of Michigan. Grew up in the New York City area, so maybe it was kind of natural that I might eventually gravitate to such an organization. But when I joined the Municipal League, we were really searching for a way to change the conversation about what it is that's going to move Michigan forward. It was at a time when, and it's still part of the narrative, that tax cuts and less regulation are really going to get us back to economic prosperity. And so when I was at the Municipal League, became part of a project that started looking around the country at other states, other cities, and around the world as to why it was they were doing so well when Michigan cities were really struggling with revenue sharing cuts. We were in the middle of that single state recession at the time. And so I really became enamored with this particular area, that prosperous cities lead to prosperous regions and prosperous states. So the key is what was it about those particular cities around the country that was creating an environment for growth, for economic growth, both for the community at large and the residents.
Right, and I think you can kind of see a little bit of that correlation in the kind of the spark that's been happening in Detroit and Lansing recently. It's just kind of highlighting, what makes it special and the history as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to think that at the end of the day, it took us several years, but we were successful in changing the narrative, or including in the narrative that if Michigan wants to grow as a state, it needs to have strong communities to do so. Because one of the things we found out at the time, a couple of things as a matter of fact, is that there was one study that we found where a majority, about 2/3 of college graduates age 25 to 34 were looking for a place to live first and a job second. And that was something that was totally new to a generation of policymakers, especially in a state like Michigan, where previous generations came here to work, especially as the auto industry started its growth in creating the middle class of this country. And so to find out now that the next generation of workers were looking for places to live first, we needed to understand that. And then we needed to understand what was it about those places that were attracting workers. And so we came up with a series of 8 assets, good schools, green spaces, walkable communities, mobility options. There were a whole host of things that we found in common in these communities. And that was important to understand because one of the more important things we found out, and this was working with a number of different people, national organizations like CEOs for Cities, statewide organizations like Michigan Future, and a lot of work done by Michigan Future in this area, is that those states that had the highest percentage of college graduates also had the highest per capita income. And as that single state recession rolled on through the early 2000s, then layered on with the recession of 08, 09, Michigan lost nearly a million jobs over the course of time, and our per capita income fell in this state. We used to be ranked in the top 10 in Michigan in per capita income, and now we're ranked at about somewhere in the 30s, I think 35th.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so even though today people like to say in our state that, unemployment is low, people are working again, the fact of the matter is that, yes, Michigan's economy is humming along, and we are still ranked about 35th in per capita income. So I like to say that it's not good enough to have a low unemployment rate. We need to have high-paying jobs in this state, because it's shown that high-paying jobs, those people that have college degrees and post-secondary certificates, are what drive jobs, what drives an economy these days.
Right. Well said. Well said. So awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So as I said also in our introduction, you are the Executive Leadership Chair for our board. And so how did you get involved with CapCAN and Michelle Strauss, and what have been your priorities as board chair?
Yeah. Well, I've known Michelle for some time throughout my careers. And when I became president and CEO at a regional community and economic development organization called Prima Civitas here in the Lansing area, I once again ran into Michelle, and we talked for a while, and she encouraged me to come on the board, given the work that I was doing here regionally with regional organizations on workforce and talent development and around the state. And so that's how I came to be on the board, and then in a short period of time I was asked to serve as chair, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. And thoroughly appreciate the work that Michelle and this organization does in raising the level of awareness and conversation about the need for our students in this area, our K-12 students, to focus on the long term in terms of their education, whether that be for a college degree or a post-secondary education. So the goals I think that we've had remain the goals of the organization consistently over time. Number one is making sure that we support college advising in our area high schools, and I think we've done an excellent job of that in Ingham County and now in Eaton counties, in Eaton County as well, which I'm very proud of, very pleased of the collaboration we now have with Eaton County. We combined with the Eaton College Access Network last year, and it's proving to be a fruitful partnership with the folks in Eaton County and our efforts across the board. So supporting college advising in our local high schools, making sure that students are aware of the opportunities they have both here in mid-Michigan to attend schools like Michigan State or Davenport or Lansing Community College, and making sure that we increase what's called our FAFSA completion rate. So FAFSA, for those that are listening in, is the federal financial aid requirement and the forms that go along with that. You cannot, you really cannot get anywhere into a post-secondary program without that FAFSA completion. So we're trying to tell kids, look, even if you're not sure about whether or not you're going to college or to community college, fill out the FAFSA form so that it's there if you need it. So we've increased rates of FAFSA completion. And the other thing I think we focus on are the community partnerships that we've established. And Michelle Strauss, our executive director, is wonderful at reaching out and making sure CapCAN is at the table and participating in these conversations on workforce development and on talent development and economic development, which is all tied in through partnerships with programs at Lansing Community College, or the T3, Teach, Talent, Thrive, Workforce Development Collaborative we have here. We work closely with Justin Shaheen and the Lansing Promise and Lansing Save. So all across the continuum here in Lansing, Michelle and CapCAN are at the table and working with those other groups to further the talent development efforts here in the Lansing area in mid-Michigan.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. I've always kind of wondered that about some of our board members is, I wonder how they got involved. But, Michelle does a really good job of reaching out and talking to everybody. So, all right. So, as you kind of talked about very briefly a little earlier, you mentioned talent. So we at CapCAN often talk about increasing the talent pipeline in the capital area and now into Eaton County as well since our merger last in the summer. Can you please define what talent is for our listeners, as we tend to throw that word around here and there?
Yeah, it is a word that certainly gets thrown around. So talent are the skill sets that people need to access the jobs that are available today. So we want to be sure that, whether from our perspective, of course, we're the college access network. So we want to be sure that our students coming out of the grade schools, out of high schools, have the talent and the skill sets that they need to further their education and then set themselves up for success in a field of work. And that also counts for older adults as well. Making sure that they have the skill sets for the jobs of today and tomorrow. And it can be anything from, jobs today can involve anything from computing to automation, but also people need those soft skill sets of being able to work in teams and, even right down to, making sure we get people to understand the importance of showing up to work on time and all of those skill sets that are necessary to be successful. So we're trying to build that pool of talented people that have the skill sets necessary for the jobs of today and tomorrow, and that can carry them on for their entire life.
Right. And, you can definitely see that connection between that, college access, and just promoting awareness in general. All right, awesome. Thank you so much. So, Arnold, what do you believe are the major challenges to developing a strong talent pipeline in the region?
Well, I think that there are two that come to mind. Number one is gaining an understanding amongst parents and caregivers of children that schooling is important, and not just K-12 schooling, but that understanding that even after you graduate from high school, you're going to need some kind of post-secondary skill set development. So whether that's going to college or going to community college or gaining a certificate through a certificate program, people are going to continue to need to build their employability skills over the course of time. So I think that there's a public understanding that we need to evolve with. I also think it's going to take continued collaboration between the public, private, and nonprofit sector as we move forward, understanding from businesses where they see the next generation of jobs, working with our K-12 system and our post-secondary system, and also our community organizations such as Capital Area Michigan Works or Capital Area United Way or a community foundation here, all coming together to help work with these various sectors so that we're all have an understanding of our roles in this and are not working in silos.
All right, awesome. So sounds like the collaboration is going to be a huge part of it. So what are some other steps that our business and education sectors can take?
I think it's going to be important for everyone to, as you just noted, to collaborate and communicate. Our business sector needs to certainly continue to step up to the plate when it comes to offering opportunities to young people about the jobs of the future through internships and externships. Education is going to have to work with the business sector to better understand those needs, especially as our students get into middle and high school, and especially as we try to keep the talent here in mid-Michigan. The Lansing area has seen some great changes over the last couple of decades in our workforce. Many people might still think of us as GM dominated, and certainly General Motors and the automotive industry here in mid-Michigan still remains very strong, but we now have more people directly employed in the insurance industry here in mid-Michigan than we do over at General Motors. And there is biotech firms and technology firms and life science firms, and so we have a growing diversity in the economy here in mid-Michigan, and there are many opportunities for young people to have the skill, gain the skill sets they need, earn a good wage, and stay in the area.
All right, awesome. Hopefully, considering how close it is to our goal, hopefully that we can maintain that and utilize those steps. So, which policies or funding priorities do you believe are needed in Michigan to support the talent pipeline?
Well, I think we're going to have to find a way to invest in education and workforce development, continued workforce development initiatives here in the state. The governor, in her State of the State speech, talked about the free community college tuition for students. I think that and other ideas about melding our education and workforce development programs together in collaborative manner are going to be of primary importance moving forward. We want to become a top 10 state in terms of talent, so it's going to take money to do this, and it's going to take money both at the K-12 level, at the community college level, and at the higher education level, coupled with workforce development programs involving our Michigan Works organizations across the state, and coming together with state agencies such as the Talent Investment Agency and the Talent and Economic Development Agency, as well as our Department of Education. And so again, cross-discipline collaboration and understanding from private sector and other analysts, what's coming around the corner, what do we need to be prepared for.
All right, awesome. Well, let's hope we can get break into that top 10 mark. We're really hoping for that. So, and kind of, mentioning our positioning and our rankings among other states, and with your experience and being able to look at all this research and tests, have you noticed that any other cities around the state, or in fact the country, that you feel that the capital region should kind of mimic or learn from or imitate?
Yeah, I think that there are some models out there for us to take a look at. I think that we've been doing that over the last few years. Certainly over in Grand Rapids, their Talent 2025 project is something that has had good success in bringing together public and private sector. We're going to do a My Career Quest event here in mid-Michigan early this spring. It's modeled after what's taken place in Grand Rapids and Southeast Michigan, where we bring together various industry sectors and bring middle school students over to show them the jobs that are available to them and the skill sets needed for those jobs. Across the country, I've seen other examples in Minneapolis, for instance, something called the Itasca Project, which is a long-running project spearheaded by CEOs in that region. And Minneapolis actually has quite a number of top companies from 3M and General Mills to others in their area, and they work together on various projects in K-16 education, in workforce development. They've even supported public transit with development of their light rail lines in Minneapolis. And they get the support of the university community there and the K-12 community as well as local government. So I think that there are some pieces from some projects that are already taking place, whether it's places, as I mentioned, like a Grand Rapids here, mm-hmm. or a Minneapolis, that we can take a look at and see how we can fold those into our own culture and our own needs here in mid-Michigan.
Right. All right. Awesome. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm going to probably have to look into Minneapolis because the, what is it, Itasca project?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds very interesting. So you were involved in the Michigan Sense of Place Council, and the purpose of that was to help improve the quality of life for Michigan citizens. How do you believe place and college access intersect, or how do they relate to one another?
Well, you know, we have a very interesting community here in mid-Michigan. We're home to state government. We're home to General Motors and national and international headquarters of more than a few insurance companies, and we have a major research institution and Big Ten university in Michigan State University. And I do think today that as universities in particular, both here and across the country, try to attract top students as well as top faculty, place matters, and what that place feels like and looks like to a prospective student is very important. You know, I've been here in East Lansing, mid-Michigan, since I went to Michigan State University. I have 2 adult daughters, one of whom right now is a graduate student at the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana, and I can tell you that, you know, the places that she's been to offer amenities that young people her age are looking for in a community. They're just not there to just simply go to college. You know, they want to feel at home, and so I think the way our places look, the way this region looks, the way not just East Lansing looks, but the way Lansing looks and feels, is going to be important to attracting students to Michigan State University or to Lansing Community College in the future. And, you know, when I went to school, 127 was Frandor area, was really the border between Lansing and East Lansing, and I never had a reason to come into Lansing. But nowadays, and certainly in the recent past, we see a lot of connection between Lansing and East Lansing. A lot of different young professional groups and entrepreneur groups intersect both between Lansing and East Lansing. Transportation-wise, you know, we've established some public transit systems to get people back and forth. So there's a recognition now that Lansing and East Lansing need each other to move forward on attracting the kind of talent that we're going to need in this area, especially in the long haul as we open up the facility for rare isotope beams on campus here. This is a world-class research facility, the only one of its kind next to a facility in Europe, certainly the only one of its kind here in this country. And I don't just want researchers and students to come here to study. I want them to come here to live, that interact with the FRIP project. And so in order to do that, you know, we're going to have to work closely together as communities to create the kinds of places that people want to live in.
All right, awesome. Yeah, Lansing and East Lansing have just so much to offer that growing up down the road, you know, as being a young kid, you don't really get to kind of experience everything. You know, I'd go to MSU games growing up and stuff, but wouldn't go too much further, maybe to mom and dad's work sometime. But really just driving from my hometown out east into Lansing every day through East Lansing, there's just so much to offer.
Yeah, there is quite a bit to do here. You know, Michigan State University offers the Wharton Center with any number of cultural interaction available to you through the Broadway series or concerts. There's a number of activities that go on here every weekend, whether in Lansing or East Lansing, and the weather doesn't make a difference. We've got a tremendous entertainment scene. You want to find jazz on a particular weekend, you can find jazz here. You want to listen to classical music, you can find classical music, so on and so forth. So there is plenty to do here. I was always bewildered when people would say to me that there's nothing to do here, because it's not that hard to find something to do.
Absolutely not. I could not agree more. All right, awesome. So we're kind of winding down here, but I do want to get your vision. I want to understand your vision. So where do you see the Capital Region in the next 10 years? What additional priorities should CapCAN focus on to help focus on the governor's new goal of 60% college attainment by 2030?
Well, in 10 years, I see this region having the opportunity to grow in population, to grow its talent base. As I mentioned, we have a diverse economy here, not just automotive and advanced automotive technology. We have high tech, we have insurance, we have banking, financial services, healthcare, and so I only see opportunities for that to grow in the coming years, and for us to grow our region. I think one of the things that we need to do is something I mentioned before, is we need to get the word out to our own community, let alone the broader state, Midwest region and country, and even internationally, but certainly even our own folks, about the opportunities that are here. I mean, I want people that come to MSU from out of state, or business folks that come off the plane here at Capital City Airport. I want them to encounter citizens of this region that are proud of this region, understand what's available, and are actually able to communicate that to people that they meet on the street, and feel good about the opportunities here for their children and their families over the coming years. Like I said, we're not just your typical Rust Belt manufacturing city anymore. We've diversified, and I think that one of our priorities as CapCAN is to make sure that our students and our parents and caregivers of those students understand that the opportunities are here.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much. So unfortunately, looking at the time, it's running out, and I guess this is all we have now. So I have one last question for you, sir. We end every interview with CapCAN Knows, where you would state your name and what you know. So I ask you, Arnold, who are you and what do you know?
My name is Arnold Weinfeld, and I know that the Lansing region in mid-Michigan is a great place to grow a family and to live and make a career here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, Mr. Weinfeld, thank you so much for coming on the podcast to chat with me again. Really appreciate all your words of wisdom.
Thank you, Jacob. I've enjoyed it.
All right, awesome. So for more information on CapCAN, please be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and or Instagram. The links will be in the video description below. Or visit our website at long day. Visit our website at capitalareacan.org. Thank you all so much for listening to us today, and we will see you again soon.